This past month, I went to Valleyfair, Como Town, the Mall of America, Adventureland, and Worlds of Fun. Aside from Como Town, I'd been to all these places before one time, and Worlds of Fun twice. You think you get a pretty good idea of a place after one visit, but as you keep going back, you learn new things, you get new experiences, you begin to understand the way things really are. These are my revelations from my road trip in June of 2022. Let's go in order and start with Valleyfair. I was here one time in 2021, and we combined that day with the Mall of America, so I pretty much got to ride everything once and then run out of there. There were so many things people told me I needed to do, and I was thinking, oh, that's too bad. I have no idea when I'll be back. But when Lost Island announced its opening, I saw my chance to get back to Minnesota. Lost Island didn't open on time, but I had the time off work, so I went up there anyway. This was Friday, June 10th. Last year, I was there on a Sunday, and that brings me to my first revelation. This park gets crowded. You think of these small regional parks, the ones at the bottom of their respective chains, and I've been able to go there on weekends and walk on all the rides. This was the case for Six Flags St. Louis, Six Flags America, Worlds of Fun, Dorney Park. That's not the case for Valleyfair. This place hasn't gotten a new coaster in 15 years, but that does not stop the people from pouring in. When I was there on a Sunday last year, I heard it was the busiest day of the year. Well, on this Friday in June, yes, Friday when people are supposed to be at work, it was even more crowded than last year. It got to the point where it was hard to ride anything without Fastlane, with the exception of Excalibur, and that still had a line outside its station. I was thinking, being a Friday in the early summer, it may be pretty light. I was never expecting it to be more crowded than the first time. Maybe the good weather on both days had something to do with it. I mentioned Excalibur, and that was a coaster I really wanted to get another ride on. I got one last year in the back row. It didn't really impress me, but people said you gotta ride it in the front, so that's what I did, and my revelation was, it's better in the back. People rave about all the awesome airtime. And honestly, I got one really nice pop, and it was exactly the same in the front and the back. The only difference was the craziness of the ride. The front was just really mild, and this coaster thrives on the out-of-control feeling. I went back around, rode the back, and I got that really insane janky ride. Actually, it may have been too insane and janky. I wound up with a headache afterward, but who cares? I got to experience the front and the back, and I can honestly say, go to the back for the best overall ride. Wild Thing was another coaster I only got to ride once, and this time I picked up two more. On my first ride in the back, I discovered that Wild Thing is actually kind of forceful. It was not a mind train on steroids. It pulled some positives on the turns, some negatives on the first drop, very mild on the airtime hills on the way back. They just trimmed this thing way too hard. But on that figure eight, I was getting tossed around left or right. When I rode with Sophie, I got the middle, and I got another revelation. The closer you are to the front, the more airtime you get on that first hill. Other Morgan Hypers start off with a big camelback, but Wild Thing starts with a speed hill. In the back, this is pointless, but in that front half, you get some nice floater. One more for Valleyfair, and the most important one for me, Renegade. My one and only ride in 2021 was a blur. Just an insane, jackhammering, airtime-filled run, and it was good enough to make my top 50. I wanted at least two more rides, and I got them. I admit, I didn't try this in the front, and I don't feel bad about it. This layout seems like a back row coaster. The way it rises up and then dives down, it just seems like that was made for the back row. Maybe the front is smoother, and I'll talk about a GCI where that's the case later, but the roughness in no way ruins the ride. My revelation here is that Renegade is who we thought it was.
But they are who we thought they were.
Rough, awesome, airtime packed.
And we let them off the hook.
It really bolstered itself as my number 2 GCI. On my first ride, my lap bar was in a good spot, but that seatbelt was not. You don't see too many rides have a retractable seatbelt like this. They don't have that buckle that loosens or tightens the belt. If you don't pull it out far enough when you put it on, you're gonna staple yourself with your seatbelt. I didn't think that was possible, but I learned the hard way. It was my first time at Como Town, but I was slapped in the face with two revelations. First, where you enter the park. You don't actually have to go into the zoo. The park entrance is next to the zoo, and the park shares a fence with the zoo, but they are totally separate. There is a gate in the zoo that looks like it should open and let you in the park, but it doesn't. The sign says you have to walk around to the front. Why? I guess they want to control who comes into the zoo, and they don't want people getting in from the park. You need a reservation to get into the zoo. I had no idea, but I was able to do it right there on the spot. The other revelation was their rain policy. It rained overnight, and that made the whole park open 1 hour late. Even after the park opened, they had to let Tiger Track sit around for another half an hour until that was dry. So if you go to Como Town and it's been raining at all, good luck. If it's currently raining, just forget it. Now for the Mall of America and Nickelodeon Universe. My first revelation was a big one. Those wristbands, in fact, do not have a way to put on your wrist, but it says on the inside of the band, take this to the operator on your first ride and they'll attach it for you. That's what I did on SpongeBob, and voila. No more shoving the wristband in my pocket like I did last year. That sticker they used looks pretty weak, but that thing's powerful. You can't take it off, and that's by design. Speaking of SpongeBob, last year I was expecting the worst, and I was very impressed with how forceful and smooth it was. After my first ride, I thought that was still the case. I rode in the back row again on my second ride. It was smooth and not overly intense, but my revelation was how different it feels in the front. It's only a 2-row car, so you'd think there wouldn't be much of a difference, but you'd be wrong. The front row is way more intense. It felt like you were getting shoved into every element, and it started getting to my head. This isn't that unusual. Everyone found out pretty quick that the front row was the painful row on TMNT Shellraiser. It seems like this is the case for SpongeBob also. Moving away from the coasters, I got to ride Shell Shock for the first time. This is a very impressive looking flat ride. You can even move your car around by moving the wings. If you think it's going to be easy to do, it's not. My revelation was that this takes some skill, and that's a skill I don't have. I tried to flip around and I barely even moved. It was still a fun ride, but I thought I could make it even more spicy, but no. Last one for Nickelodeon Universe. They have a Moser drop tower called Splatosphere. My revelation is, the jankier the drop tower, the more fun it is. It seems like the super advanced ones are actually the least fun. I'm talking about rides like Drop a Doom. Give me a Larson drop tower any day, but don't sleep on these Moser drop towers. They have one on the Santa Monica Pier also. These pick you up and drop you over and over. You feel it in your gut every time. Then it takes you to the top, hangs you there for a while. Then without warning it drops you. We rode this 3 times and I'm pretty sure it was Sophie's number 1 in the park. Moving down to Adventureland, I got to experience this for the first time as a Palace park. And aside from the ticket prices going up, I didn't notice any difference. This was my first time taking Amy here, and I was able to get her on the carousel and the train. I'm not sure if this was a new policy or not, but on both rides, they insist that everyone sits on the bench. This is not safe when you have a baby. They are way better off on your lap where you can actually secure them. So my revelation is, the people who make the rules at Adventureland don't have kids. If you read comments in the coaster world, you find people getting very specific about rows and seats, where they rode, and what gives the best ride. Sometimes this is legit, other times it's just fodder for coaster nerds. When I rode Dragon Slayer back in 2021, I rode the tornado side and I came off thinking, well, that was pretty mild. But it's a free spin, sometimes you get a lame ride. That's the randomness of the model. When I mentioned this in my Adventureland review, people said you gotta ride the other side, the lake side. That side is way more intense. I said, okay, whatever. I'll be sure to give that a try next time. My revelation on this trip was there actually is a wild side and a mild side. This was by design. The sign in front says the left side, or the night side, is the wild side. The right side, or the squire side, is the mild side. After riding both, I can confirm, the left side tried to rip me in half, and the right side was a kiddie coaster. I love this idea so everyone can enjoy it. Adventureland has 2 major wooden coasters. Outlaw seems to have a good reputation, but Tornado gets trashed. After riding both of these again, I don't think they're that far apart. Tornado beat me up last time. This time I thought it was smoother. This may have been because I rode the very back the first time, and I was assigned the middle this time. I wanted the back, but they said they had to load the train in order, so what I got was a smoother ride. I don't think there's any airtime regardless, so I guess take the smoother ride closer to the front if you can get it. As for Outlaw, it does have airtime. There are 2 very nice ejector moments, and the rest is mainly laterals. But I'm telling you, Outlaw really beat me stupid. I almost rode again, but I decided not to. It was one of my first rides that day, and I didn't want to ruin my head for other rides. I never thought Outlaw would be rougher than Tornado, but here we are. Phoenix is your typical Maurer spinner. I've ridden this model at Hershey Park, Waldemere, Santa Cruz, and Lagoon. I always thought this was the superior spinning coaster, compared to its Gerstlauer counterpart. I got to ride Fairly Odd Coaster at the Mall of America the day before, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Phoenix, I wasn't feeling quite as much. My revelation was, the Gerstlauer model is more fun, more extreme, just all around better. Last one for Adventureland. You can't come here and not talk about Monster. I was so impressed last time. I got 2 rides, and I was blown away by the elements. I didn't think my opinion could get much higher, but it managed to do it. My revelation was, this is not just a great ride, it's nearly perfect. When you're on a ride and you look forward to the next element, you got a winner. Every element on this ride is different. It pulls all types of forces. Nothing it does is conventional. I know I've said this before, but Monster is worth your trip to Adventureland. Everything else is a bonus. If you just come here and ride Monster, you'll walk away happy. My last park was Worlds of Fun, my 3rd time there, but one experience I was looking forward to was Trimless Mamba. They only have 1 train going, so they aren't activating the mid-course brake run, or so I was told. I found it's very lightly trimming it, much better than last year, but it does take the edge off the train's speed. I started in the back and then tried the front. In the back, I got some airtime on the first drop and the first hill, but that supposed amazing final run of hills, I got nothing. I was really disappointed, so I tried it in the front, and this time I got that weird floor of airtime where it shoves you forward when you crest the hills. So if you want some real airtime when you ride Mamba, ride the front. My revelation was, trimless Mamba is overhyped. It's not Magnum level, not even close. As for the park's other major coaster, I got 2 rides on Prowler. My first one was in the front row, and I was actually the only one on the train. It was a true zen ride. This was my first ever ride in the front, and I was impressed with how smooth it was, and with how much airtime it had. It wasn't very strong airtime, but it was legit, and the whole experience felt very controlled and kind of mild. I went around and rode it near the back, and it was like night and day. My revelation was Prowler in the front versus the back should almost be considered 2 different credits. That smooth, controlled ride turned into a jackhammered, out-of-control experience. There was airtime in the back also, but I took a beating. So when you ride Prowler, you can custom choose your ride experience. I'm starting to find this is the case for other GCIs also. As for the ride itself, this seems similar to Mystic Timbers, but it just wasn't executed quite as well. It's really Mystic 1.0. If you want the new and improved version, go to Kings Island. Cosmic Coaster is a wacky worm, nothing special. But on that last turn, it whipped me around, and it was kinda awesome. It reminded me of the Cosmic Coaster at Valleyfair I just rode for the first time. And despite having the same name, these are different rides. This is a Zamperla powered coaster, but this one also has some intense laterals in the helix. So, my revelation is, the Cosmic Coasters pack a punch. One last revelation, and it's much appreciated. Worlds of Fun seems to have a drink station every 10 feet. It was insanely hot there, so running into these was very much needed. I had a really hard time with this at Valleyfair, and they seem to combine the drink stations with the icy refills, and that makes the line go so crazy slow. Not a problem at Worlds of Fun, just scan and go. They also have freestyle, which I love. I was sad to see it leave Magic Mountain, so it made me happy to see it here at Worlds of Fun. So there you go, all my revelations for my 4-day, 5-park road trip. Let me know what you think of these. If you have a different experience with any of these, drop a comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, if you can give it a like, I'd appreciate it. And if you're new here and love coaster content just like this, please consider giving me a sub. Also, check out my links below for my Discord server, and my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage, and my baseball channel if you're a baseball fanatic like I am. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.